The days that followed revelations of the KGB subversions have continued to escalate. The Australians, the British, the Spanish, and the Americans have all subsequently expelled highly sophisticated Soviet spies for activities directed against the free world. Even neutralist nations such as Sweden and Japan have been undermined by hostile Soviet intelligence activities. Here at the heart of our nation, Washington, D.C., literally every security agency has been under assault by agents from the KGB and other Soviet bloc intelligence services. It has now been officially established by U.S. authorities that thousands of Soviet enemy agents are stealing critical information and monitoring every level of our government, public institutions, and political organizations. The Soviet embassy compound, a walled fortress sitting on the highest ground in our city, is a clear-cut and unprecedented military threat to our national security. This so-called embassy, in fact, directs hemispheric-wide KGB operations, including the recently revealed drug traffic activities of high-level Cuban secret agents, acting under the cover of diplomatic corps personnel. From their citadel-like stronghold on the Potomac, Soviet clandestine teams go out daily to compromise, blackmail, and bribe the CIA, the Pentagon, the NSA, and the Congress of the United States, and the record shows that they have often succeeded. Together International is, in fact, by this declaration of war on Sovietism and the KGB, declaring the establishment of the first anti-Soviet international, dedicated to the total elimination of Sovietism in its all variations. Through this declaration, Together International hopes that American citizens will urge that Congress act decisively to order an immediate permanent reduction of the Soviet embassy staff to the minimum needed for relations with the Soviet bloc. In addition, Together International urges that all so-called diplomats from the Soviet bloc be integrated into one Soviet-owned compound. The captive nations, including Russia, have governments in exile which should be, as soon as possible, given back their embassy properties and accorded full diplomatic status, including the right to represent their peoples at the Department of State and other federal government agencies. The recent evolution of international law, illustrated by the United Nations and many other multinational organizations embracing the PLO, a group without a country, sets the valid precedent for Together International's recommendation regarding the transfer of diplomatic status from Soviet surrogate regimes to legitimate governments in exile. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask Mr. Sullivan to...
I just want to say a few things about the KGB and how the former chief of the KGB, Yuri Andropov, who is now the Soviet leader, has used this KGB to take over the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. In fact, the KGB is running the Soviet Union. Just last Tuesday, my boss, Senator Steve Sims, put into the Congressional Record an analysis of Yuri Andropov's successful coup d'etat in the Soviet Union, describing how Yuri Andropov has successfully challenged all of his competitors for ultimate power in the Soviet state and has succeeded in using his KGB to take over the entire government, not only to enforce discipline in the economy and in the agricultural production sector, but also in running all of Soviet foreign policy. The Soviet KGB is now running the Soviet Union, and therefore we need to look very carefully at the KGB, what it stands for, what its capabilities are, and who its people are, wherever they may be, here in Washington or anywhere around the world. We're all aware of the circumstantial evidence of the role of the KGB in the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II in June of 1981. That evidence is circumstantial but very strong and very compelling, and we do not need conclusive evidence of the role of the KGB in that plot to see the sinister hand of the KGB wherever it's revealed. And that is just one example we've heard.